All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the regular town council meeting, June 13th, 2016. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd also like to add a moment of silence tonight in memory of Ray O'Brien, served 38 years on the town council and various other boards. In memory of Mr. O'Brien. Thank you.
You're here.
Item 2 on the agenda is public comments. Mr. Baird, do we have anybody signed up?
no one has signed up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Bass.
Mayor, I'd just like to, I was going to get up at public participation, but I want to thank you personally for having that special moment of silence for Mr. O'Brien, for all of his service he's done to the town and the community, and I want to thank you for that. And I think it's with great gratitude that we had that moment of silence for Mr. O'Brien and all he did.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing career, and it's so many people have passed lately that really set an amazing example for public service. So I'm hoping that his example inspires others, and it certainly inspires me. Although 38 years sounds like a sentence rather than. So God bless him and God bless what he's done. But no, I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record,
Yes, Mr. Warren.
Ray O'Brien was the one who instituted our pledge to the flag and our moment of silence at the 9/11. The first meeting after 9/11, he decided to do that, and the council took it up, and then other boards and commissions have done it. And I think it sets a good tone for our public meetings.
It does. I agree. Well, that's great that we remember him in that way as well. Very good. So item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the prior minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Move the town council regular meeting minutes of 5/23/2016.
Second that. Okay. Any further discussion or amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. Thank you. And item B, the town council special meeting minutes.
Move the town council special meeting minutes of 5/31/2016.
Second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Item 4 on the agenda is mayor's comments. There's a couple of things I'd just like to bring to everybody's attention. Tomorrow is Flag Day, and there will be a dedication on Veterans Bridge. In case you've noticed, there are some additional flags that have been placed on Veterans Bridge, and I do want to thank Public Works for going above and beyond to get that done. It's actually a lot harder to put a flag on a bridge than you would imagine, especially when the state is involved. But they did a pretty amazing job in getting them up there, and we will have a dedication tomorrow morning at 10:30 at the bridge. Voting, I don't think, I need to say much. Tomorrow is a referendum vote, and I hope that everybody gets out and exercises their right to vote on this referendum. So I would encourage everybody who lives in town or owns property in town to do so. I'd like to note some retirements that will be coming down this week and the next week. Our purchasing agent, Marilee Underwood, who has a career with the town spanning many decades, I believe it's over 30 years, will be retiring this week from the finance department, and we certainly wish her the best. Martha Sanford in the tax assessor's office will also be retiring, and she also has a career spanning decades. And I'd like to note that we do appreciate their service and the time that they put in as employees of the town. They're very valuable members. And I always like to say congratulations to anybody that retires. To me, it's something to be celebrated. I can't wait to retire. So if they make it to that point and they get to do it, I just wish them the best and thank you on behalf of the town as well. Let's see. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, of course. Well, in the audience tonight is also Troop 31. I want to thank them for being here. They're here for their citizenship and the community badge. And although they have to be here, they're required to attend. I hope that they actually get something out of it and they kind of enjoy it a little bit. it's an interesting process. This is a small microcosm of what makes our government work, but it's very important to it. So welcome, and I'm sure all the town council members, and especially myself, would welcome your questions at the end of the meeting as well. We'll try to keep it civil for you. And last but not least, I just want to mention that the town did, it was awarded on behalf of the Department of Transportation a road safety audit. We applied for back in March. They received 125 applications from 81 municipalities, and New Milford was chosen for this audit. And what they'll do is the state will assess bicyclist and pedestrian safety issues and countermeasures so that we could start laying the groundwork to address some of these safety concerns on our roads, especially on Route 7, where we've seen some pedestrian fatalities in recent years. So this is a step in the right direction. I want to thank again Public Works for putting together a really great application and being awarded this audit. So beyond that, we'll move on to item 5. I'm sorry I have it listed as MCCA, but it's actually Mental Health First Aid. And I'd like to welcome Valerie English Cooper, who's going to do a presentation tonight.
Great, thank you so much for inviting me, Mary Jane and Mayor Gronbach. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm Valerie English Cooper, and my company is Mental Health Connecticut. It's actually one of the oldest nonprofit companies, service companies in the state, founded over 100 years ago. Well, back in September, we were the recipient of a major federal grant giving us funds to provide free mental health first aid training throughout Litchfield County, with the goal of blanketing and saturating the county with people trained in mental health first aid. What is mental health first aid? It's a community education, an 8-hour certificate training, and we are increasingly offering more and more CEU credits, CME for EMTs. So it's an 8-hour training that teaches people how to, it's like first aid, CPR as we know it, which really had its foundation in the 1700s, exists pretty much as we know it since the 60s. Mental health first aid was first developed in 2001, came to the US in 2008. First aid as we all know it, 12 million people are trained a year, 12 million. Mental health first aid, in the eight years since it came to the US, we've trained 500,000. That's it. So we have a long way to go to reach parity if you believe that people in the community can support people who have mental health problems as well as physical problems and help them get the help they need. So what specifically do we train? Like CPR, we train people to recognize and help people who are in crisis. But unlike the first aid that we're all aware of, mental health first aid also helps people recognize the signs and symptoms of developing mental health problems. And that's key because early intervention supports early recovery. And in mental health first aid, we're talking about substance use disorders as well. And the link between substance use disorders and mental health, other co-occurring mental health problems is well established, but the community doesn't recognize it that much. And the community doesn't recognize that much how much early intervention in mental health struggles in young adults, adolescents and young adults, can help support prevention in substance use disorders because they often go hand in hand. So what do we have? We have federal funds, bipartisan, word we don't hear that much these days, bipartisan support in Washington to saturate the country with mental health first aiders. And we have leadership recognizing the importance within community of mental health first aid. We also have dedicated people like myself executing federal grants. What we don't have is a very large, significant level of community awareness of mental health first aid. Our feedback has been phenomenal. The program is managed by the National Council for Behavioral Health. Fidelity is very key. As you might imagine, there's a lot of opinion and thoughts about mental health, but the National Council for Behavioral Health trains every single instructor in the nation, and they come out and they make sure we're all doing our jobs and honoring the fidelity of the course that we were trained to teach. But still, the community is not that aware. So I'm going out to all leadership. We're training all of the state troopers in Litchfield County. And one thing I need to mention that you may not be aware of, all of you, that New Milford was the very first town to have the very first training under this grant. And there are many towns that haven't had a single training yet, and we're about, since April 2016, we're about to have our third training in New Milford. First was hosted by the Youth Agency, second was hosted by the Ambulance Association, and the third, you have a poster for it. The third is hosted by Social Services, Peg Molina. They've all been open to the public as well. So this town has really supported, really been at the forefront of this training. I'm telling you so you know, so you communicate to all of the people that you know, also to tell you how I can use your help. First of all, if you can think of any platform where either I can come or I can provide materials to educate the community, I would appreciate it. Any. Give me a call, that's why I distributed the card. You also have my information on the poster of this too. Platform, it looks like I'll probably try to go to Village Fair Days. Faith community, I've talked to HV CASA as well. Police, EMT, several of your EMT members have been trained and they're planning on scheduling more. Library, any platform you can think of, because here's the truth. The statistics say that 1 out of 2 of us will at some point in our lives personally experience some sort of mental health challenge. But the truth of the fact is I go into a room, and I'll include all of you, wherever I go, I ask how many people in the room have never in their whole lives have been impacted, never been impacted at all by a mental health problem. Family, friend, colleague, student, fellow student, anyone. Raise a hand, someone who's never been touched. Okay, and no arm ever goes up. We have very young people here. No arm ever goes up. Mental health problems touch all of us, and therefore we can all be part of making it better for everyone in the community. So, any questions? Did I forget any? Oh, the next training you have here, and I'll let you all know, is July 19th and 26th. It's a 2-day training from 1 to 5 p.m. And maybe look in the papers, the Spectrum will post it. But you can also go to our website to see more trainings. If the one in New Milford doesn't work for you, there are several other trainings. It's www.mhcon.org/education/mental-health-first-aid. Okay, any questions?
Please,
Has
Jessica.
there been a thought to do this in our schools, to have teachers trained in this area to be able to recognize it in the younger generation?
Great question. This particular grant, the money came to us because the federal government recognized that youth age 16 to 24, when many mental health problems start to really manifest, they're underserved in Litchfield County with regard to mental health support. Not so much because we don't have good support, it's because they're the conduit of care for a million reasons I won't go into, but we do in training. That bridge to care doesn't exist as strongly as in some other places. Mostly because of the rural nature of our county, Litchfield County. However, another organization, Education Connection out of Litchfield, received a grant from the same grant umbrella at the federal government to teach youth education first aid. My course is the foundational course, but youth mental health first aid is to support adolescents. And Education Connection is going to every every school in the Northwest to the school boards and asking if their teachers would like to be trained. I would like to train all parents of graduating seniors in the foundational course, because it's really when young people go out and on their own that some of the struggles really become difficult for them. And you had a question?
Yeah, is it the 19th and the 26th, is it 1 day course or is that 2 days?
That's 2 days and 4 hours each. It's an 8-hour training. I have done it in one 8-hour day, and I've done it split 4 and 4. But this particular training is, and it's free. I didn't mention it's free because of this federal grant for the duration of the grant. It's usually a $50 to $100 training, depending on what kind of support people have. Any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mary Jo, did you do the training?
I didn't do the training, but I was there at the Max, and the excitement that everybody who had taken the course, they were really excited about it and happy to have had this knowledge and this experience. So I gave out the awards, but I am planning on taking it. So
It's a great resource. I hope, and it's been really well attended in the community. So I hope that you continue to get, really filled classes.
I will. For more, any information you can give me to let me know what kind of platforms or opportunities for me to be present, Philly
Sure.
Fair Days or any community meetings.
Sure.
You can just shoot me a note, because I'm not really aware of everything going on.
I'll keep you in the loop.
But I would like to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thanks so
Valerie.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, appointments and reappointments. Entertain a motion.
make a motion for the appointment of the Elizabeth Hendrick to the Local Emergency Planning Committee, 6/13/2016 to 11/30/2018.
Second.
Okay, and just briefly, Ms. Hendrick has a background in emergency planning from New York. She was recommended by the LEPC committee and Mike Crespin, and I think she's going to be I met with her, and she's got a lot of great background experience and ideas. So I think she's going to be a really great asset, and I think the committee recognizes that as well. I'm excited to have her appointed. And she moved to town fairly recently as well, so that's a great thing too. So, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is the Lanesville Fire Department. I'm not sure if we have anybody in here tonight. How are you? There you go, sir.
I thought we were up to the 21st, but I'm here anyways.
Okay.
Basically, we've got some money that was approved last year. I believe it was $60,000 to do preliminary survey work at the firehouse down in Lanesville. We run through a study on placement of trucks, and we're overcrowded in both buildings, and some are actually a safety issue. So we wanted to get a plan of the complete building, survey. There's not really a good survey of that piece of property, just to see exactly what we can do down there. We've done some preliminary design of a building, etc. We really need to sit down with an engineer to come up with the rest of it.
Is there any total cost expected for the whole project?
At this point, we had a price of like $600,000 2 years ago, but we got some problems out there. We want to find out as far as the foundations go. That property was filled in, and the last time they put an addition in, they had pretty good cost overrun to straighten that out. So I'd really like to know what's in the ground, what we have to do for wetlands. We do have to put a water separator in now because of the sewer and the way the drainage is. We've got quite a bit of work that needs to be done. There's one furnace for the whole complete building, and when the cold days last winter, they never shut off. It was actually after the storm, when it was down to 25 below zero, we were 3 days before I got up to 50 degrees in that building. Any other questions?
Is this for additional bays? Is that what you said?
There's additional bays in the back. And one of the main things we want to do is, right now we need the trailers to go out. We have to actually go bay to bay. We want to have it so we can have them lined up, drop them on the hitch and go. It's just a time delay we have right now. We got equipment that's stored off site. Our safety trailers and that waste management has been for 2 years. So when we do bring it down there, it sits outside. And just try to make everything easy. The boat is in between bays, so we have to move 2 trucks to get the boat out to go to a lake accident. There's quite a few things. I was going to do a presentation for you 2 weeks now. I didn't realize we were going to be on tonight.
All right, so,
Okay.
so you'll be
You
back
mean 2 weeks from now you're expected to come in?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'll come back with more for
I
you.
think that's fine. Frankly, we were putting it on because when I mentioned this to some of the council members, they weren't aware of it, and I know this was approved last year. I don't know if there was a presentation made then. So it's an opportunity to re-educate, the council, because like they say, in for a penny, in for a pound. So the $60,000 is the first step towards a major kind of construction project, and but it makes sense for you to make your presentation, make the council aware of everything.
And I'll bring handouts for everybody too, and we've got some drawings made up, and the town highway and town public works has been excellent to help us to this point. And
Right.
Kimberly Clark also has helped us. So we've been in this like 5 years at this point to this project. So I'll bring a packet for everybody next week. I'll try and get it to. Can I get it to you earlier so they can have it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do that so you can have it
everybody's
ahead of
packet so they can review it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, another question.
just for the record, could you give us your name and address?
Bruce Taylor, 10 Lily Pond Trail, New Milford.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, item B is the contract with Adam Cohen of Pullman and Conway. This is our town attorney for tax collection purposes. I'll entertain a motion, and then I've got some information that's relevant.
I'll make a motion to authorize David R. Gronbeck to enter into a contract with Adam J. Cohen of Pullman and Conley LLC as special town attorney for tax collection purposes.
Okay. Just by way of background, I wanted to get a little information for my own edification. And since January of 2016, Attorney Cohen's collected $425,000 in tax interest and lien fees. And the fees that were paid by delinquent taxpayers were roughly $41,000. So, and he's done a great job. This is on the recommendation of our tax collector, and I'm prepared to endorse it. I think his fees are reasonable, and most of the time, if not all of them, I think his fees are paid out of the delinquent taxpayer. So it really is a net benefit to the town at the end of the day. So, any further discussion on the motion? Yes.
Good question. So I know he's been doing it for a while. So are the fees here representative of what he has charged if we've paid any, or, just in general, are they representative of what he's been charging?
Yeah, I believe that he's been, let's see, he was charging $3.95 an hour. That started at $150 and increased depending on when payment was made in the process and the amount of work put into the title searches and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I read that. I just wondered if it was, it's not any higher. And did we have a contract with him before?
Yes, I would imagine we did,
I
absolutely.
just don't remember it.
There is no way you don't have a contract with a lawyer.
Chairman Bass?
I would imagine,
We did?
the
Yeah,
prior
we did.
administration
Remember
would
the
have come and, gotten
Okay,
the
thanks.
approval for it. But yeah, and then in the contract, you do see he's got a breakdown of, I kind of like this, it's a little bit different because it does break it down in terms of where it is in the stages, whereas before it was just an hourly rate. So you've got a fee set forth, the demand letter, the auction, reviewing the title report and so on and so forth. And the way that I think I've discussed it with him, it actually would save, not so much the town, but it would save, the taxpayer in terms of the total amount of fees that would be charged. And that's the hard part when they're trying to get out from underneath some of these tax liens, is the attorney's fees are what are very difficult for them. So anything that allows us to get paid our back taxes and allows the attorney to get paid is a good thing.
Katie, you want me to from the previous contract to this one?
Oh, no, I just don't remember it.
Yeah, no, it's just a breakdown of the cumulative fee on the numbers. It used to be anything under 3,000 and then anything over 3,000. Now it's under 4 to 6, and then over 6.
Right.
That's the only difference in local contracts now.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Mr. Barry.
Sounds like a system that's working for us. No need to change the horse.
I agree.
Amen.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. Item C. This item is the discussion and possible action on the creation of a sub-account within the town's capital reserve fund to be funded by unexpended surplus funds for public works, police department, and parks and rec, as may be available. If I could just explain in layman terms, similar to what we've done with the Board of Education, it's an incentive program to incentivize, in this case, the Board of Education has an incentive not to spend their entire budget, to recognize efficiencies, because the balance of whatever's unexpended at the end of the year goes into their capital account and helps to fund not only emergency repairs that aren't necessarily expected, but capital expenditures that don't always get funded during the budget process. And so when we were going through the budget process this year, it kind of struck me, I was looking for a way to make our town departments more efficient. And as we get to the end of the year, there's a mentality that departments that if they don't spend it, they don't get it next year. This is something that I've spoken a lot of times with Mr. Wargo, Mr. Bear about. And to try to address that mentality, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but to address trying to be more efficient within the departments where there are cost savings or savings in money, to have that realized at the end of the year, and to have the departments themselves benefit from putting some of this money into an account for their future use. That would carry over from year to year. That was the idea of putting this on the agenda tonight. And so with that background, I open it up to the town council to discuss. Yes, Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Mayor. Like the idea. I think it's a great benefit to our departments, the ones listed here. I had a couple questions. With conversation to the Director of Finance, would this be something, could we carry forward funds in these type of balances year over year, or would they have to be expended?
No, the idea would be to carry it forward, so that you could build up a balance in these accounts similar to the capital account, but really be an incentive account, so it's not necessarily limited to capital projects within these departments, because they do have separate capital funds that get carried forward. But yeah, so if they save $20,000 one year and $50,000 the next, that $70,000 could be a significant boon, and also help offset some of the budgetary constraints that we're always feeling.
And would this be similar to the Board of Ed's capital reserve? When they would come back, it would come to town council, and town council would approve the funds?
Yeah, the way I was thinking of having this broken down is at the end of the year, the department would identify where these savings came from, because I don't want somebody to have a concern that, well, they just padded it at the beginning of the year so that they could cushion it and have a surplus at the end. None of the departments do that. But if they could identify, for instance, this year in Public Works, there was a mild winter. So if they had budgeted, let's say, $250,000 and they only spent $150,000 because of the way the winter was, that's a rational reason to have, a surplus of $100,000. And then following that, it would require the town council to make a decision to put that into an account or apply a portion of it to surplus depending on the circumstances. And then ultimately, a request would be made from the department to expend that money from the account, and it would come before the town council again to weigh and discuss that.
And my last question, Mayor, is when normally now the way that it is when we have those additional savings or less expenditures, it falls to our unassigned fund. Do you think by doing it this way, affecting the unassigned fund, would that in any way affect our ability for bonding or anything like that?
Two things with that. You don't see a lot of surplus funds from these departments anyway, so that's one thing. We do recognize it. But the other thing to address that is, that's why I say that town council would have the authority. It wouldn't automatically go into this fund. So let's say there's, $200,000 in surplus at the end of the year, and we see that we want to bulk up our unassigned surplus fund. The council could appropriate $100,000 of that to the surplus, and then still keep the incentive for the department to use going forward.
Right.
So I think that there's some flexibility in there. Yes, Ms. Francis?
Thank you.
All right, so if I understand this correctly, it's one account that would cover Public Works, Police, Parks and Rec?
No.
Individual?
No, it'd be separate in
For
their
those
departments.
3 departments? I see.
Exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So there wouldn't be any poaching between one department and the next. And I identified these three departments because they seem to have the biggest capital expenditures and the biggest opportunities for savings. That's not to say it wouldn't work in any other departments, but these three seem to be the most relevant. And then, we could see how it works if we go forward and expand it to other departments. You don't see this too much in the health department, but every once in a while that maybe they do, have a surplus, and they should kind of reap the benefit of that.
So the incentive is if they can find ways to save, whether it's purposeful or, say, like you said, a warm winter, the money would be there, but the decision about whether it would stay with them or go into our reserves, in other words, to help our bond rating, remain with the council.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That sounds okay.
And I think it builds a level of flexibility in there. Our surplus is generated by other things than just, if you talk to the finance guys in our finance department, they don't like to have anything unexpended at the end of the year in these departments. So there's kind of a mentality that you've got to spend it because that was what was budgeted. But this alleviates that because it's still being assigned to an account for future spending. And any surplus that's generated in other departments or, increased tax revenue, what have you, is still recognized and still put to our surplus. Yes, Mr. Tyler?
Real quick, just a quick point of clarification. It partly addresses Mr. Bass's point. For any of these monies that are left over at the end of a given fiscal year to go into the capital reserve fund, it would need town council approval, as the mayor recited. My point was that once it's there in that segregated sub-account, two points. One is that to get it out of there, it really would be in the form of a supplemental appropriation. And that would require both town council approval and a recommendation to the Board of Finance. So you'd have Board of Finance and town council acting on that.
Sure.
Second is, let's just say Parks and Rec had unexpended surplus money from an operating line at the end of fiscal year, operating funds. And the town council decided to have that go into their segregated portion of the sub-account. Under that scenario, it goes into their portion of the capital reserve fund. But in terms of going out, it can't, under the statute that controls capital reserve funds, it can only be used for capital and non-recurring expenses. So it wouldn't be proper to use it in the future for operating expenses. So I just wanted to address that procedurally and the restriction on the purpose in terms of the money coming out of it.
I think we can clarify. Today I just wanted to get this out there and see what the comments were, and we could kind of hash out the details in terms of, is it a strictly capital account or can it just be an incentive account that is used for different purposes going forward? And I can figure out the legality of either one. But that's a good point. At the end of the day, I think the point is town council is going to be there as a gatekeeper to make sure that it's not spent on anything frivolous or unnecessary. All right, any further questions? Excellent. So what I'll do is I'll prepare kind of a set of protocols for the next meeting so that we kind of outline everything that we talked about here, explain the process, talk to finance about how the account would be created within the departments, and then legal, the logistics of it, and try to get it in place for next year's budget. Okay. Sounds good. Any further discussion? All right, thank you. Item D.
Are you looking for a
We're not
vote on
voting?
it?
Oh, no, I don't do this vote. I'll just prepare protocols for next time, and then, we can vote on that.
Good.
All right. Item D on the agenda is a TRC Environmental Corp. Contract for litigation support service. I'll entertain a motion, and then John can explain it.
Okay, move that Mayor David R. Grunback enter into a contract with TRC Environmental Corporation for litigation support services in connection with the Century Enterprise Center demolition project.
Second that.
Okay. You remember we authorized the creation of a fund to fund the litigation support from TRC. Now they've got a formal contract that basically formalizes they're doing work for the Brass Center, and that's part one job. But any litigation support will be kind of segregated and controlled by this other contract. So that's the purpose of this. Was a copy included in our package? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, John, you can address it.
It's simply a two-page document, and it recites the fact that TRC has a contract already with the town for the demolition project itself. And what they propose is that for litigation support, they utilize the same hourly rates as they do for the demolition project. But because we have DECD money, in grant monies that are financing the demolition project, we really have to segregate, if you would, TRC's role from litigation support from what they're doing in the demo project. We need TRC in the litigation support because, for example, we need to respond to some fairly technical discovery requests we've already gotten. They need to spend time assisting us with that. And we really only work on an hourly rate. So it'll be the same hourly rate in place. Technically, the contract is between our firm and TRC, but the obligor of any payment would be the town. So the mayor would co-sign this to reflect that the town is picking up the tab, if you will. We wanted it between us and them to make, to cover it under work product. I'll get into that.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Massey.
Thank you, Mayor. Town Attorney, the line item where the expenditure would be coming out of, is that out of?
Okay, on that, you might recall there was a recent supplemental appropriation, and that supplemental appropriation, I believe, involves a line where money was taken, I think it was $30,000 from the winter overtime account to a line within the Department of Public Works on professional services.
Right.
So I believe that's where it's going to come out of, as opposed to, like, it wouldn't come out of a legal budget, which is supposed to go to the attorney's fees.
Right.
So the next question I was asking is, knowing that the benchmark of the 30,000 being moved from there to this professional service, do you feel that's what the cost is going to be, or are we going to be anticipating additional?
We hope it's less than that.
Okay.
We thought it was prudent in light of the size of the case and the complexity of it, that this was sort of a contingent amount, but the mayor has instructed us to try to be cost effective, and perhaps we can resolve the case and only a small portion of that is expended, or half is expended. We can't say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Any further discussion? All right. Do we have a motion in a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Item A, did we want to state, just for the record, that this is tabled until the 21st?
Sure.
Because we did bring it up.
Tabled until, that's what I figured. You could come back the 21st and I'll put it back on the agenda for that date. All right. Going back now to item 8.
27th.
27th, is that's the next one?
The next meeting is the 27th.
Okay, we'll make sure Bruce knows the date.
Yeah.
Okay. Bruce Taylor.
Oh, it was Lou. Sorry.
Candlewood, item 8 on the agenda is Candlewood Lake Authority and a request for $750,000 for cyanotoxin testing at public beaches. Just by way of background, I spoke to Mike Crispin today. He's actually got money in his budget that he usually pays for this to send this testing out, and what's being proposed by CLA is that they purchase the equipment to be able to do this stuff themselves. And you see there that the funding was $10,000. They raised half by about local fundraising, so the municipals, each municipality's request is for $750. So if we could pull it right out of the health department's budget, that's dedicated towards this anyway, we could do that. Otherwise, I suppose it's a request for supplement. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Mike aware that you'd be wanting to pull the 750 out of his?
Yeah, he's the one that suggested it.
So moved.
Yeah. Okay.
Second.
Yes, Mr.
So what they're gonna be doing is what we, I don't know what about the other towns, but this is what our health department has been doing.
Right.
So Mike won't have to do this anymore unless he sees some reason to do so, right?
Actually, instead of sending it out, I think they send it down to Western has the facilities right now, down in Danbury. CLA will have the capabilities to do it themselves, so we could just send it to
I
them
see.
and they could do it in-house as opposed to being charged by this outside service to do the testing.
And the money, this 10,956, they raised that money?
They raised, I guess, half of it by fundraising, and then 750 is the portion.
Okay.
And they might have some money in their budget already, and then 750 is the 5 towns portion. It's quite a deal. I think Mike's budget, he said he had about $1,500 just for this testing alone. So if 750 gets him to the point where he doesn't have to spend any more of that, it's a good investment. So, all right, it's been moved, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 is the town council. This is a little bit self-explanatory, but I'll just give some of the background. In some of my discussions that there are some projects that are going to be coming down the pike that specifically fall within the realm of the town council's jurisdiction. Revision of the personnel code. I don't think it's been revised in 15 portions of 20 years. The position descriptions, the job descriptions for town employees are woefully out of date, and we've got fees that the town charges that I think the last time they were looked at was about 10 years ago, from what I understand. So these are all things that are going to fall within the town council's purview anyway at the end of the day for approval. So the suggestion is that we set up these subcommittees to work with our new personnel director and make recommendations, and on the fee structure, work with our department heads to make a recommendation to the town council at the end of the day. So maybe we could discuss it before we make a motion. Is there any questions or concerns about the creation of these subcommittees? Or yes, Mr. Vez?
Thank you, Mayor. How do you envision the committees, the makeup, how many people?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought it was in here. I was thinking 3, since we don't have a huge council, 3 on each committee, so that it's very straightforward. All town council members. And when they're complete, they'll make a recommendation and present the report to the council at large. Yes, Ms. Francis?
How do the people that are now working with these fees, how will they be consulted, included? For instance, like I'm just talking about the fee schedule in particular that, say, the building department or anybody like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly know more about the day-to-day
Sure.
of what they're doing with the fees and what the fees are for.
They'll be advising you. I've already gotten the process going where I've asked all the department heads for emails about the fees that they charge, the last time they were reviewed, the authority and the basis for them, so that they're going to be reporting to this committee on recommendations, what they do now, and then you can kind of review and get a sense, is this comparable to other towns? Is it low? Is it high? And then, you can make your recommendations from there with their input. Yes, Mr. Chamberlain.
Is it my understanding, Mr. Mayor, that essentially these would be advisory committees which would do their due diligence and then come back to this body with recommendations for the council's action?
Sure. It has, under the charter, the council has to vote on these changes anyway. So yeah, it's an advisory recommendation kind of situation, but I think it would streamline the process because these are, a personnel code very much involved. These fees, you can think about how many departments we have charging fees. It's very extensive. The same goes with the job description. So hopefully that work will be done in this subcommittee so that it can be streamlined. Mr. Wargo and Ms. Milford.
Yeah, the job description and the personnel, that could be labor intensive.
The personnel director, just so you know, is going to be kind of leading the way on that.
So we don't need a secretary?
No. He's going to be making recommendations, showing you, what's there, and then ultimately you can kind of question, revise, and internalize the recommendations that are being made.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Lundberg.
Do we want to set a time period for these committees and, for completion of the information back to the council?
I think generally it's 6 months before they have to be renewed anyway. So, we could work within that time frame and see where we are. And there's no deadline on this. I think it's just a matter of best practices. We want to get it done. So we can see how far we get within that time and reevaluate. That would be my suggestion. Just to put out there, we've got some requests for these subcommittees already. For instance, I've spoken with my caucus, and for the personnel code, Mr. Chamberlain and Ms. Richardson have expressed an interest. I'll open it up to anybody else on the personnel code. Mr. Bass, Ms. Francis, if you want to wait, and if you think Mr. Szymanski and Mr. Esposito would be interested in any of this. You get first dibs because you're here, I guess.
Really? Really? Well, the fees are of interest to me.
Okay.
Welcome.
Oh, you do? Oh.
I'm Frank.
As if you have a space open on there, I don't know.
I like the fees too, but that's okay.
Everybody
All
else.
right, I would defer to Pete, he's longer on the council. How about position descriptions?
Sure, okay. So we've got Ms. Francis for position descriptions. I know Mary Jane, you had expressed an interest in that as well. Anybody else have an interest in position descriptions? Mr. Bass, Jessica, anybody? We could do two. I mean, I don't think it's.
Yeah, we still have the other two gentlemen.
Okay, we could appoint. The two for
We
now.
could appoint them because they're not here?
Like it.
Yeah.
It's none of these are terrible, so I don't think you can really kind of punish anybody with one this time. Well, we could do two for now, and if we want to add, an open vacancy, it's not the end of the world. So I'll make I'll entertain a motion for Ms. Lundgren and Ms. Francis for the position descriptions subcommittee.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, Mr. Tower.
Sorry, I just wanted
Just
to
didn't
point
throw a
out
wrench in
something.
there.
Our charter under section 405 speaks to the default term of a temporary committee as a year.
Oh,
And then after a year, you go to 6
Oh, I
month
see.
renewals.
I see.
So, but you could, by this resolution, you could shorten that to a 6-month tenure as you suggested. It's up to.
I think just a review after 6 months is fine anyway.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. Okay. So that takes care of B. Let's see, we had C, I believe Mr. Wargo, Mr. Bear, and Mr. Bass were interested in the fees subcommittee. Any further discussion? I entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. And as far as personnel code, Mr. Chamberlain, Ms. Richardson has expressed interest. Anybody else, or do we want to just keep it open for some of the missing members to be to express?
Email it.
Okay.
Email it, ask them.
Okay, fine. As far as now, I entertain a motion for.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. All right.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Please.
All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody.
I like it.
I just need the pad and the pencil.
Oh,
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
all right.
All right, thank you, Walter.